Okay, so then moving to item 10. So I'll bypass item 8. We'll deal with that when the mayor arrives. So moving to item 10, the draft submission of the Christchurch City Council on the Local Government Community Wellbeing Amendment Bill. Item 10 on page 65. Are there any questions for staff on this? We'd invited any questions to be provided or any changes to be provided prior to the meeting, and nothing was received. So we have a resolution to approve the draft submission, which I'm happy to move. Do I have a seconder? Mike Davidson. Is there any debate on this? Glenn and Phil. Glenn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Very pleased to see this go through. At the time the full wellbeings were removed from the LGA, I think the entire local government sector opposed it. They weren't heard, and for me this step today takes us a step forward in terms of central government listening to local. We've really come through quite, in my view, a shameful period over the treatment of local democracy. It's as if open season was declared on councils. I remember not only this instance, but one where a minister stacked up a whole lot of district plans behind him, having a go at all the councils over land provision and housing, and that did not go down well with local councils. I also note that we considered this paper today in the context of the news of elections coming back for ECAN, which is great to see. ECAN was canned, as you know, back in 2010, and so it's been quite some time since we've had democracy for our regional councils. So I'm thrilled that this is going through. I have heard it mentioned in one quarter that we explore the possibility of some kind of covenant or treaty between central and local government, so that a great deal more respect is actually built into the kind of framework between central and local. I've never seen so many attacks on local government as I have in the last 9 years. So I'm thrilled that this is going through today, the full wellbeings and the DC dimension that goes with it as well, enabling us to charge for these facilities, which we must. So I'm sure we'll all vote in favour.
Thank you. Phil.
Thank you. Look, I certainly endorse what Glenn has said about supporting the staff, what the staff have written. I think it's a very good submission. I certainly recall, and most of you will, when the full wellbeings were taken out by a previous government, it was like a real assault on local government in terms of our wellbeing. And I'm very pleased that this new bill will restore those wellbeings. Yeah, and like an example too of where I think local government have missed out and have had to pay a lot more was because the narrowing of development contributions and how they might be able to be collected by our councils. And so that in effect I think did great harm in terms of adding to the costs of every council throughout New Zealand. So I thank Ian and the staff for preparing this submission, and I'm very happy to support it. Mike.
Thank you. I'll also echo the councillors across the room. I think it's really, really important these wellbeings get put back in. Obviously, when they were taken out in 2012 by the then national government, it was aimed at trying to rein in the so-called overspending by local governments to try and actually fill a lot of the need within community. But I think what it really does show, I guess, is actually councils, the funding we get through rates and other mechanisms is just not enough to provide what we need to provide to actually put in quality infrastructure and also support communities properly. So this is actually a really good step, but it needs to go further in terms of actually the money we get, the funding we get, the revenue we get, and how we therefore can distribute it properly across our communities and through our city to make sure that we meet all the needs.
Thank you. I largely agree with the reinstatement of the well-beings. I just wanted to draw Council's attention to the changes to the development contributions, and that is the reinstatement of a wider definition, which I think is well needed. We lost out as a city, particularly because of the earthquake and the change coming in just after the earthquake, meaning that we actually lost out on millions of dollars going towards providing from the growth to the city to the needs that we had to provide the infrastructure. So really welcome that. We just had a deputation the other day from the people in Waltham, and to think that a brand new development with many houses goes in, intensive housing goes into that community without any ability for that developer to pay and contribute to the local playground being upgraded seems to me absolutely unfair. And that development contribution may have been going to other things out in Hallswell or the north of the city, but it doesn't go back into that local community that's bearing the impact of that development. So, I welcome the changes to the development contributions definition. And also the other thing that we're asking for in our submission, which is again long overdue, has been to have a much clearer infringement regime for councils, rather than this ridiculous thing when we try and enforce some of our bylaws that we have to go through a very complicated, expensive prosecution through the courts, rather than have the ability to give out infringements. And so, I think the benefit of that is twofold. One, it would enable us to have bylaws that we could enforce a lot easier, a lot more cost effective, but also it doesn't criminalise people for breaching our bylaws as well. So, I think there's a real advantage to having that infringement regime refined, and I think it would be a lot better for us in terms of how we run the city. So I welcome the staff submission. Happy to support it today.
Very good. Is there anyone else? Very good. I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Those opposed say no. It's carried. Thank you.